The day I stuffed my soft-sided luggage to the bursting point, I thought not of Jack, but of Caryn. I thought of how she might need me, how she'd grown used to me. I remembered crazy little things, like how she looked that last summer, paddling around the pool in her zebra float. That float was so lifelike. I mean, the head anyway, the eyes heavy-lidded, the nostrils beating with moisture. I told her we'd have to get a permit for keeping a wild animal, and she laughed. I could always make her laugh. One Friday afternoon, when it was just the two of us at the pool, she called, "Look, no hands!" Raised her arms over her head and slipped off the float. I threw my magazine down, dived in, flip-flops and all, and swam to her. She flailed at the water and then put her arms around my neck and kept hold, so we made our way past the upturned flip-flops and to the side of the pool. I was breathing hard, but she wasn't. When we reached the side, she patted my face and said, "I love you, Missy." I wanted to protect her forever. Thought I would. I believed then that life was like a jigsaw puzzle. The more you worked at it, the easier it got. But, as always, Jack came between us. That night I suggested swimming lessons. He insisted she was too young. I had lessons at that age. Swimming is overrated. I just wander around in the shallow end with a drink in my hand anyway. That's not funny. You worry too much. Next she'll be on a gluten-free diet. Sometimes people tell me I should have stayed. They cite his house, his pool, his success. My girlfriends talk about his artist hands, his brown eyes. The guys catalog his Porsche, Jaguar, Tesla. As for me, when I can get a word in edgewise, I tell them there was no room. The honest ones, like my mother, will roll their eyes or smirk and say, "No room in a 3-story house." At first it was the paintings. Jack painted bold colors, nothing halfway, but screaming reds, blue as hot as a Bunsen burner, yellows as disturbing as staring at the sun. No slow fades, but borders between colors sharp as a paper cut. Mostly he painted abstracts. Those were eerie enough, swirling masses of color that looked like boiling lakes with monsters twisting in their depths. But when he asked Caryn and me to pose for him, and we did, we sat in lawn chairs in the garden, wearing matching sundresses at his request, and putting up with a sunburn creeping across our shoulders because he said sunscreen would make our skin look too greasy. He turned our patience into canvas-stricken panic. In the painting, our faces swelled as if we'd been nose to nose with an eyefish lens, and our bodies flowed into a void. Our skin wasn't milky or tan, but green, and our oversized eyes purple. Gone were the lawn chairs. Instead, beneath and behind us lay a vortex of black and white. The day he unveiled his work, Caryn screamed and ran. I took a deep breath and tried to think of a positive response, perhaps the range and vision the art critics talked about. "It's really colorful," I finally managed. "It's really you," he said. Week by week, Jack's paintings multiplied, growing from the entrance hall to the living room to the den, until even the aggressively large kitchen and Caryn's bedroom were invaded. When I tried to tell Jack that that was why she couldn't sleep, why she had nightmares, he pushed my words away. "You let her watch too much TV," he said. Then it was the other things, sometimes about me, sometimes about Caryn, but worse when it was about Caryn because she had no mother and her grandparents lived across the country. And I was one step removed, just a live-in girlfriend, with little say when all was said and done. The morning I packed to leave, with one of Jack's disembodied portraits staring at me in the face, I remembered the last birthday I spent with Caryn, when she begged for a chocolate-on-chocolate cake, and he brought home 2 raspberry swirl cheesecakes. She cried. She was only 5 then. And he yelled at her in front of her friends, calling her a baby, and all of them became quiet and watched with fearful reverence as he cut the first piece. "He's stabbing a zombie's face!" one of the braver ones called out, and several others took up the idea, and Jack got so mad he cut pieces twice the normal size, and he stood at the head of the table, barking orders that everyone finish every bite. They did. And when Caryn woke up in the middle of the night vomiting, he said I shouldn't have let her have malted milk balls after dinner. It was her birthday, I said. I thought she should have something she wanted. He waved a hand. What could she want? And so when my headaches got so bad I could barely bend down to pick up the clothes Jack always left on the floor, and when Caryn's kindergarten teacher said she seemed preoccupied, and when I called social services and they said I really couldn't do anything for her. After all, there was no neglect, and abuse would be too hard to prove. I knew I had to go. It was September, and I folded my clothes into neat piles and laid them gently in my bags. My hands shook because I knew I'd have to face Caryn. Outside, I heard her laughter as she played tag with Hunter, the little boy next door. I looked out the window and saw them running around the wet concrete by the pool, which I had asked her not to do. Jack sat in a chaise lounge, his back to them, sketching. And as I watched, the lapping water of the pool caught the sun, and I blinked. A few weeks later, I was staying with a friend when Jack called. I'd blocked his number, but for some reason I answered. His words arrived in shards, like the jolt of his paintings. Funeral. Tomorrow. Deep end. Hunter diving in, Caryn following, fighting with the water. Hunter unable to save her, cuts and bruises, lungs full, face pale as... stupid neighbor kid. Useless. Ex-girlfriend. An aura blotted my vision. Just fireworks of black and white. You should have been there, Jack said. Maybe you can pay your respects if you're not too busy. Should I have known it? Sensed it in the future? My thoughts crowded together until all that was left was that last afternoon when I raised the window, its wood groaning within the light frame, and I called down to them. Be careful! I called 3 or 4 times, but the backyard sprinklers were hissing, and somewhere music was playing, and the sound of my voice evaporated like daylight at dusk.